Welcome to this week's Techie Tip. We are going to look at the next in our series of Google Apps videos, and this time we're going to take a look at Google Forms. 33% of you selected that as the next topic. So the first thing we want to do is open a browser, and in our URL box, let's type in forms.google.com. If you remember, if you watched our slides series, when we typed in slides.google.com, it brought us right to all things slides, or in this case, all things forms. So they do give you a few templates to select, and you can take a look at those individually because they're actually pretty good and they're already designed for you. So we're going to click on Start a New Form. When you open this for the very first time, you're going to be given the form screen, but we're also going to take a look at the old version of Forms because that has some pretty neat question creations that I think come in pretty handy, especially if you're asking more involved types of surveys and questions. So why do we use a form? There are lots of different reasons to use a form: quizzes, surveys, exit tickets, all very quick and easy types of questions that you can ask of your students as well as your fellow peers. And Forms is pretty simple to use. So when we open a new form, what you see before you is actually the new version of Google Forms. And across the top, you'll have a spot where you can title this, and we'll just call this Training Form. Across the other side of the screen, you'll see that you'll have a series of icons so that you can change the color. If you point your mouse on these icons, it'll actually give you a tooltip and tell you exactly what the icon represents. In this three little dots, or ellipses, as some folks in the tech industry call them, you have another drop-down menu in which you can copy, remove, share the form, which we'll talk about some of these as we move through the form slides and the form presentation. All right, so the center of your screen is actually the form itself. And you'll notice that you can ask questions and you can look at the responses to those questions. When you see the very first item, they give you an untitled question, and when you click on the drop-down box here with the type of question, they give you a whole bunch of different choices depending upon what it is that you're asking. So we're going to start off pretty simple and choose something called multiple choice. And our first question might be, do you use forms? And once you type in the question, you simply click in the box where you say yes, and then you click in the next box and you say no. And that's pretty much creating a question in your form. Naturally, you can make them a lot more involved than the simple question we have here. So what other options do you see here? Well, you'll notice that there's a little X here where if I wanted to remove that answer, I could simply click that X and it's gone. Of course, I really do want to have a yes, no to my multiple choice, so I'll put that right back. On the bottom here, you can actually duplicate this question. Sometimes I find that kind of handy if I've made a more involved question and I just want to switch a few things around. I'll just make a second question. Or if you know that you're going to have a whole series of multiple choice type questions, you can simply duplicate the process. You can also delete the question entirely, and you can make this question required by simply turning that little button to the on position, and you simply click with your mouse on or off that selects that. These little ellipses also provide an option to add a description, shuffle the option order, or go to a section based on an answer. So if you had If you do not do any reading, go to section 2. So that comes in pretty handy depending upon what you're designing. So on the right of your question, you have a whole series of other types of boxes and buttons and icons. And once again, if you point your mouse on that icon, it'll tell you what that option does. It allows you to add a question for the plus sign. You can add a title and a description to your question. You can add an image. You can add video. And you can add another section. So the last thing that we're going to take a look at in the first session of Google Forms is this little color palette. If we wanted to change the color of our form question, we could simply select a different color and notice how that changes. Or if we wanted to add a picture for our background, we could simply select a theme and move forward with that. So you can slide through all of these items. And I kind of like this arts type question, so I'm going to select that. But before I do, you can of course choose different types of themes: illustrations, birthday, kids, travel, other, or you can upload your own photo. So they have some nice graphics here, so we're going to select that theme, and it kind of changes and gives you a nice presentation. So if you are selecting a theme, you can of course select a theme that is related to the topic that you're teaching. So it's pretty much all kinds of things here that would tie in with your content area. So I'm going to click cancel, and we're going to end our first training on Google Forms at this point, and we'll see you next week for another exciting lesson on Google Forms.